Welcome. I'm Liz Taylor, ocean explorer, naturalist, and entrepreneur.
I'm Sylvia Earle. I'm an oceanographer, National Geographic explorer, founder of Mission Blue, and I am an ocean elder. Thank you, ocean elders, for sponsoring this program.
Exactly. And this is our show, Dive In, where we host informal and open conversations with the ocean community on topics of wonder and interest. We're glad to be back, and we hope everyone has made some time to be outdoors. You can ask questions by putting it into the Q&A box, and later on we'll get through as many questions as we can. And throughout the conversation, we'll be adding some links into the chat. And before we get started, let's remind everyone that the world
is
blue.
blue.
Today, we are so honored to be talking with Hinano and Frank Murphy about indigenous Polynesian perspectives in ocean conservation and what that means both for island nations and the high seas. Hinano is a respected expert in Tahitian cultural history and has served as the associate director of the UC Berkeley Gump Research Station on Moorea. And today she serves as the cultural director for the Tetiaroa Society. And Frank holds his degree in biology, environmental studies, and geography, and works at the UC Berkeley, focused on Holocene sea level indicators for French Polynesia, and currently director of programs at the Tetiaroa Society. Welcome, both of you.
What a pair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to try to share the screen, but
Okay.
Hinano, why don't you tell us a little bit about growing up in Moorea and on Tahiti and the oral traditions that you came up with?
Yeah, thank you, Liz, and Yaurana to everyone watching this talk. I grew up on the island of Moorea, and I was born in the Tuamotu, like a Tetiaroa atoll, far from Moorea, but I was raised on Moorea, on the island of Moorea. So there I was lucky enough to have my grandmother and live with my elders in our family, my elders in my family. And so we spoke our language, Tahitian language, and also with my grandma, we have the Paumotu language. And at school, I was learning French. And well, I grew up very early age. I was very passionate about oral tradition and all the storytelling. My grandma was telling us about all stories of our ancestor. We came from a family, from my father's side, of navigators. And on my grandma's side, we came also from, the island of Fakarava, and which was called before Hawaii. So exposed at early age to anything, how our contact with the ocean. So you live in a world that is blue, thank you. And every day you are in contact, not only physically with this ocean, with this world, but also spiritually. For us, we learn at early age that the ocean is sacred. The ocean is a sacred place. The ocean is a matrix of life, and the ocean should be protected. So, and our relation should be respectful to the ocean. Everything we do, we have to respect, as we respect land as well.
100%. And we've seen, in many ways, kind of a disconnection to nature. And I think it's such a important body of work that both of you are doing right now on this beautiful atoll that we see here with the Tetiaroa. What is a little bit about the history of Tetiaroa?
Tetiaroa was a place, a special place for our high-ranking chief. And it was a place where the family, the high-ranking family, will visit to gain, how to say, good health, and with that contact with the place, feed well on fish and resources of the island. But also it's more like to reconnect with a special ecosystem which is Tetiaroa. So we have, when you look at these atolls, this beautiful island, it was a place of also building alliances. This is where all the communities from different islands, they used to gather for special ceremonials on Matari'i, when the Pleiades are rising, and also when the Pleiades are setting. So it's a place of rituals, place of cohesion, place of when we gather, we share, place of building alliances. So it's a very, very special when you go there, you visit all the archaeological sites. You see, it's a place where you see abundance in birds. And recently, with all the studies that are done there, we find out that also Tetiaroa is a very special, it's like a star compass. It's like a star compass, where if you know how to read nature, if you know when you look at every day, you look at the sunrise, the sunset also, but you look at the birds going around, how they fly, you look at the clouds, everything there is, I mean, nature is opening to you, is open, and it's up to you to get that contact with everything that's surrounding you. And recently, with all the technology that is done here, that with the hotel, the Brando, but also what Mr. Bailey has created for this atoll to show a very unique place, which is a laboratory for our children to learn more about this atoll.
Yeah, and it's a Mission Blue Hope spot now as well.
That's right.
Yes, yes, and we're working on that.
Yeah, and Frank, tell us about some of the scientific challenges there and some of the programs that have been happening there that you've been helping to foster along.
Yeah, well, so Hinano mentioned Richard Bailey, who's sort of the heart and soul of our program here. But when they built the Brando Resort, or even before that, there was discussion with Marlon Brando and then with others about developing a nonprofit to manage the island and to be the steward of the island. And so this is basically how Tetiaroa Society came to be. And Richard built a research station even before the hotel was built for Tetiaroa Society to welcome scientists from around the world, bring in conservation specialists, bring in school groups to learn about the island. So it's become an amazing hub in only 10 years now, a hub of research, a hub of conservation work. And it really is quite amazing how far we've come in these 10 years. And so we've just briefly, the major conservation objectives are to get rid of the invasive species on the island, which are affecting the natural ecology. And we've done that largely, getting rid of rats and mosquitoes and ants. And it's turning into a place now. I mean, we're seeing it. We've been here for the last week with an American high school group, and we've been taking them out to all the different motus. And we can already see in just a few years that we've been doing these programs that, the crab populations are coming back, the bird populations are coming back. And this is exactly what the aim is. And we have teams of people who are monitoring this to see how these changes take place. But
You mentioned Richard. You're speaking of Richard Bailey, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fellow
Ocean
my
elder.
fellow ocean elder.
also ocean elder, yes.
Yes.
who
Exactly.
really who worked with Marlon Brando, who owned the island, if an island can actually be owned from an ocean standpoint.
Mhm.
Who owns these places anyway?
Yeah.
Anyway, Richard seems really to understand the importance of respecting the people of Polynesia and also the natural systems that underpin life on Earth.
That's right. Well, one of the things we did, maybe if you just go back to that picture of Tetiaroa quickly, we're actually sitting in the upper right-hand corner on that far little motu islet. right now. But one of the things that we did when we started Tetiaroa Society was that we created a scientific advisory board, but also a cultural advisory board. So we wanted to make sure that we had advice from both the scientific world and the cultural world. And this has been extremely important for us here. And it has tied into the work that we have now grown into doing. And the thing is that we realized pretty early on working in Tetiaroa that no matter how much great conservation work we do, great, cutting edge research, we can't, and our job really is to save Tetiaroa, is to prepare Tetiaroa for the future, to make it more resilient, bring it back to a natural state as best we can. But we realize we can't save Tetiaroa from Tetiaroa. The problems that Tetiaroa is encountering are coming from the outside. They're not really from here. We're getting rid of invasive species that are problems here, but the problems of climate change and ocean acidification and potential deep sea mining, biodiversity loss, all these things are coming from the outside. So we recognized that we needed to create a program that actually was more global in coverage. And so we created the Blue Climate Initiative. And that got Hinano and I then working, and Sylvia, you guys were here for the Blue Climate Summit in 2022, when we came to support a whole bunch of programs that were solutions for climate change. And we also began our involvement in the anti-deep sea mining world. And we also started a project called Voice of the Ocean. And Voice of the Ocean was a homegrown project that we wanted to do something that wasn't technology driven, necessarily science driven, but it really came from our local community. And so the idea was to bring together people of Oceania, the indigenous people of Oceania, the elders, the youth, to bring their point of view to ocean conservation. And these two things, the Voice of the Ocean and the deep sea mining project, have kind of melded together. They're both separate and bigger than each of the two things. I mean, the Blue Climate Initiative has also addressed the economic problems with deep sea mining and legal, and Voice of the Ocean is also talking about other things. But really, this is what's brought us into this global situation we're in right now. But really, it all focuses back on this island. I mean, this is where we started. And it's this island, and this island is dependent on the ocean, as are the people of Oceania.
Yeah.
And so this is where we're at.
I'm gonna pop through this one octopus.
Wait,
Nice one.
that image, but I have just a question for Hinano, and that's, okay, so people who live on different islands around the Great Pacific, there are no airplanes 1,000 years ago. They had to get
There it
together
is.
by the ocean, and the traditional way were these sailing voyages, open canoes that took a special skill to navigate over open sea to find one another. And as I understand it, where you originated in Tetiaroa, Tahiti, in French Polynesia, this is kind of the center where, as you pointed out, people came from distant places to share knowledge, to continue whatever it is that makes the Polynesian culture what it is. You can't pick up the phone and talk. You didn't have, you had to get together. But getting together over thousands of miles, it's not like the 21st century. And yet those same skills still persist thanks to a handful of individuals who have held on to those traditions, that knowledge, that wisdom. Tetiaroa Society, working with the Polynesian Voyaging Society, together are doing so much that is so important, combining that with the new science, the ancient knowledge and wisdom and respect for the ocean. It's I think, something that if we could get the world to come together with that same understanding of we need nature, we need to recover what we've lost in terms of respect for the systems, mostly ocean, that make our existence possible. Just as you say, we've lost that connection.
Yeah, and this, you know, this this map, the octopus map is just, I mean, every time I look at it, I love it even more. But it has, you know, sort of
Amazing. Yeah.
Tahiti, the head of the octopus, right?
Yeah.
And then all
It's
the
an
arms.
amazing
Yeah.
animal that we've taken as to summarize, our values, the way we look at our knowledge, but everything is embedded in this animal, this
Mhm.
creature that we consider as the keeper of the matrix of life in the deep. And the octopus is very with its eight tentacles, the story and all the knowledge that we share about octopus. In all Polynesia, Oceania, you will ask a person from Oceania, do they have story about their octopus? And they will share with you their story with octopus. You cannot talk about the ocean without talking about canoe. Our
Mhm.
are the way we carry our people with our values inside this canoe and with everyone as being one on the canoe. And when you say being one on the canoe, it means we are all connected and we all have the same values, and each of us, we know our place on this canoe. We share the same values, the same respect, the same origin, and as the octopus is teaching us. So canoe, when we say va'a, it's not only the way of connecting, of going, and we say he'e. He'e means voyaging, means also moving from one place to the other. But he'e means also octopus. Like the way the octopus is going, is swimming in the ocean. It's fast. And then the way octopus sits and and adapt to a place and
Mhm.
keep everything around. So that symbolic of the octopus is very deep. So because he's a keeper of the matrix of life, but it's also at the surface. He's the one that guided our canoe. So, our people could go in the unknown. When you go and travel this ocean, you practically go into the unknown, but you get that values and you get the strength of what is the matrix of life to keep on moving from one place to the other and to build up that resilience facing the blue ocean, and also bringing, all these values to another place and sit there and adapt like the octopus is doing, adapting to some places. When he's not happy, he released his ink, and then he shows you that he's not happy, he's ready to move somewhere else, And so it's a beautiful picture that we keep in our mind, but also for the ancestors, for all the voyaging canoe, it's a beautiful compass, to show how all these tentacles, they meet and they are pathway to go to this place and this place and that place. And I think this is the way they explore the whole ocean. But
Yeah.
head of the octopus in the middle of the Pacific, like in the middle of the Polynesian triangle, is very significant because it is in Taputapuatea. And Taputapuatea is a meeting place for all canoes from all different islands that you can picture, you can read on this, on its tentacles that he's showing. This is where they gather. They gather to do there for special, very special occasion when they have to make very important decision about the ocean.
Like
And
mining.
yes, like
Yeah.
mining example. This is how Blue Climate, we went there. It was a very important moment where we figure out that it is important for everyone to be there, to feel that connection that we have with the ocean, but also as a reciprocity, we have to engage ourselves into things that we want to do. What do we want for our ocean? What do we want for the future of the next generation? What do we want for humanity? And this is where each of us, we go there and we make the promise that we are the guardians and we are going to do everything we can to live in harmony with this ocean, but also to protect ourselves through all this, action, and to also release a call on action. I
Yeah.
think this is great for, to take the octopus, but also I don't want to forget the spiritual link that we have with the deep. And this is through the octopus that also showing us that it's not only a physical place, it's a physical voyage, but it is a spiritual also connection to the deep, to the air, to the atmosphere, because you're following every animals that you can meet on your voyage, the whales, the birds, everything, the currents, they are everything surrounding us is living. It's the ocean is a living entity, and we have to live in harmony with this world.
It's really true, and there, even in some of these great big blue areas and throughout the Clarion Clipperton Ridge Zone where the deep sea mining is really in focus right now, the octopus has been seen on those nodules,
Right.
so they're there.
The garden of
Yeah, the
octopuses.
garden of octopus. They're using living on those nodules that people now want to strip from the seabed. So
Yeah.
it's a real insult in so many ways. It's accosting the nature of the place.
Yeah, when you think about our story of the now myth of the creation, the octopus is a guardian of this matrix of life. It's there, it's sitting on it, and it's keeping that.
Yeah,
And when you look at the marae over, this is a picture of the marae of Tapu Tapuatea, where all the canoes will come and
It's the head
every
of the
community,
octopus.
it's the head of the octopus. It's there, and you come there, you have a special relation. And over, on the picture that you have our stars, our zenithal stars, which is Sirius, and we call it Tauruanui Papa, is the one who acknowledge all our project and carry on the project to be, to be bringing to the world. And so it will be, handed and handled it, and also, bringing all the good luck to wish, a strong wish to it.
yeah. And when we look up at the night sky, it's a sort of this collective experience, assuming we don't have too much light pollution, where people can really connect to the stars. But when they get down into the ocean, sometimes they're like, oh, it's dark and scary and spooky, but you really do still have that connection. And through just the biological activity there, you see the beautiful bioluminescence, and it's just
It's a
a
galaxy of
galaxy
light.
of light there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
In our language, in our culture, when we talk about the ocean, we say there is an ocean in the sky and there is an ocean at the bottom. And
Yes.
in this sky, in both of this ocean, there is, Te Vayora Tane, in that ocean of the sky, we have all the stars in there. We have our galaxy, that's what we call Te Vayora Tane, and we have many layers. But as well as a deep, it's also the ocean with many layers and going all the way to the down at the bottom, and where some animals are very important for us. It like the octopus is very important. I mean, everything around is important, but the one that making the link with human are octopus and the big whale, you know, the big
Yeah.
whale going deeper and make that connection.
Sperm whale,
The
yeah.
sperm whale making
Well,
that connection with the deep and the surface. We call it the vaca parawa, the canoe of the whale canoe. you
whale
know?
canoe, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So Frank, like, you know, you've got like all these different nations, all these island countries. How are they coming together, or are they coming together in opposition of the deep sea mining and illegal fishing and other pressures on the high seas?
Well, this kind of brings us to the crux of what Hinano and I have been doing. You know, and you know, when we got together, it was, you know, the obvious thing. I grew up with science, Western science. Hinano grew up here with traditional Polynesian culture. And so this has always been our thing, back and forth at the dinner table. Our kids get sick of it, you know, about us arguing about different sides of this. But you know, if you looked at that globe picture before with the octopus, if you took the octopus away, the octopus image away, you would just have a huge blue ocean planet with lots of little dots on it that most Westerners would just look at that and say, well, that's just ocean. What is it, you know?
Yeah.
But the octopus shows you that this was a connected space for the
Yes.
people of Oceania. This was a place that was not, you know, a wilderness in any way. You know, the ocean connects the islands. It's not a scary thing. It's not a barrier.
Right.
It's
And you fast forward to modern times now, and this map shows pretty well that now the ocean has been all divided up
Yeah.
by Western law. And everybody knows, most people would know, I guess, the story of, you know, all of the various island groups that have been colonized by different Western European nations. We were here in French Polynesia, colonized by the French. Hawaii was taken by the Americans.
Wow.
New Zealand was taken by Britain. And over again, you know, most of the islands were claimed, colonized by Western. And so that's kind of a common story. We know that. And in some cases that's changed. In some cases it's still the same. But when the law of the sea was created in the late 1970s and early 80s, it seemed like a great thing to be able to come up with a law that managed the open ocean, the high seas, the places outside of the economic zones. In fact, it created the economic zones. But it also just carved up the rest of Oceania, the ocean part, by Western countries. And you know, the people of Oceania, the Polynesians, the Tahitians, the Hawaiians, the Maori, they had no say in any of this because
Terrible.
they were represented by their countries. So this is where we're at in modern times today when we're talking about the use of the high seas for deep sea mining, for fishing, for all this. The people, the real indigenous people of Oceania have never really had a say. There have been, of course, island nations that early on had their independence and were potentially part of the discussion. But really, the largest group of indigenous people of the Pacific, the Hawaiians, the Tahitians, the Maori, there was this, you know, some of the Samoans, there was no discussion there. And so
Wow.
what you see today now is a Pacific that's carved up into EEZs in this map. And to give you a very stark example of one of the realities of this is that, I don't know if people can see it that well on your screen, but you know, French Polynesia has an EEZ of about 5 million square kilometers. It's the biggest one in the Pacific. But right next to us, and in between us and Samoa and above us, Kiribati, is Cook Islands. And the Cook Islands are planning on doing deep sea mining. They're working towards doing deep sea mining. French Polynesia is, along with France, is completely against it. But there's no real line out there in the ocean.
No. It's this little, I'm using my
Fish,
cursor.
the fish don't see any lines. I mean,
No,
the whales don't know any.
the whales don't know.
whales don't know any lines.
Octopus doesn't know.
And the people of Oceania never knew these lines either. So this is really a modern creation that is in some ways divided the Pacific up So now you have some island nations that are saying, yes, we think we should be able to do deep sea mining in our sovereign territory, which was never like that before.
Yeah, right. It was everybody's territory. It was, yeah.
It was
Yeah,
everybody.
it's
Or nobody.
everybody.
Yeah,
And it still should be everybody.
yeah.
So anyways, this has complicated the picture and
Heck,
yeah, this is what we're up against now.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a
Well,
mess.
it isn't just the people of the Pacific that have no voice. I had no voice. You know, all this has happened in my lifetime, carving up the ocean, established boundaries.
Mhm.
Right now, with respect to deep sea mining, it's really not the countries themselves, but a handful of vested interests, mostly representing industry,
Mhm.
been given the authority by the various countries, by the United Nations, who, when the United Nations came into effect, well, not in 1982, but really not until early 1990s when it was ratified, and the United States has not ratified the law of the sea.
Right.
Yeah,
To the
right.
table were deep sea mining issues. We're observers as a country, just as a representative, but I'm not there. You know, there are 8 billion people on the planet, and fewer than 80 are actually making the decisions that will affect everyone, not just now, but forever. I mean, all of the kids who are yet to come are not at the table either, but they will live as a consequence. They'll inherit what this small subset of humans, the decisions that they're making, and it's largely driven by profit motives, not taking care of Earth as our life support system, not looking at the ocean as a sacred place, but rather how to get rich quick
Yeah. And
on our watch only. Now, in my lifetime,
That's right.
not not the actions that will impact everyone, all of us, everyone. Doesn't matter if you've never seen the ocean, you will be affected. The air you breathe, with the quality of what makes Earth habitable by actions that are on the chopping block right now for tearing up the largest intact system, the deep sea, that still exists. I mean, there are rainforests that are still in pretty good shape, although there's great pressure to turn them into money too,
yeah,
to turn them into profit instead of regarding them as sacred. And not just to be deployed by those who are on the planet right now for wealth as we define wealth. And,
Yeah.
you know, we just have to think differently. And
Yeah.
one thing that I hope will happen during the coming year, when there's a major conference happening in France, in Nice, United Nations Ocean Conference, to bring people together to have their voices heard. And it'll be a whisper in the face of the big voices of those who want to turn the ocean and other parts of the planet into wealth, into money, if you will, into uses, commodities that
yeah.
are currently valued above the natural systems. You know, what good is that tree? What good is that
Yeah, to turn
fish?
it to board feet of lumber, right?
If you can't,
Yeah,
it's has less value alive than it does when it's dead.
Yeah.
by
Dead.
some metric, yeah. So what are some of the things that you've been working on to try to unite some of the countries to come to speak together against this and to try to convince,
for the ocean.
yeah, for the ocean positive or nature positive solutions? Are there is it just Cook Islands or some other holdouts there that people?
Oh, no, there's also Nauru, Tonga, there's a few other ones, Kiribati, that are all playing with the idea of mining. So we first went to the International Seabed Authority, which is the place where the Law of the Sea created and is making these decisions about deep sea mining. It's a UN body place. We first went
amazing.
there a few years ago. And I can tell you that we've actually, this idea about bringing the indigenous point of view to the table has been quite effective.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, from the very first time we went there, when Hinano and Uncle Sol were the only, Uncle Sol is our Hawaiian, one of our Hawaiian partners, in all of this, were the only two people to speak. They might have taken up 0.1% of the discussion that happened in that body, on that floor. But this year, we were just there in March, and I would say that a full 10 to 15% of the discussion that went on the floor was about cultural heritage.
Nice. That's good.
So there
Great
was a
progress.
lot. Yeah, and so a lot of people are recognizing that there's problems that, the problems with deep sea mining, of course, you got the environmental problem, which is huge. I mean, you're strip mining an ecosystem that we don't even understand yet. And that has been undisturbed for millions and millions of years. So you're basically destroying this ecosystem. That's slightly, a small problem.
Yeah.
The economic situation with it was described really well by Victor Vescovo in one of your last talks, and has been written about by many people. It's basically a giant Ponzi scheme. I mean, there's the idea of them actually making money off of this and saying, as they say in the Law of the Sea, that this is going to be distributed equitably to people around the world, is just a dream.
It's a law.
Yeah, no.
It's a law. It's
Yeah.
a lie, and it's a law.
Yeah, but now the cultural perspective saying that the bottom of the ocean is a sacred place for the people of Oceania is also now gaining ground. Is a very good argument to leave it be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in the original Law of the Sea, cultural heritage is described only as shipwrecks and archaeological sites, which of course would only be intertidal.
Right.
So there's nothing in there about the natural world like you would have on land, where there are certain natural entities, including animals and places and mountains and trees and forests that are protected as cultural heritage.
Or World Heritage sites, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in the ocean, there's nothing in the Law of the Sea anyways, there's nothing like that. So our argument has been that we need to include, animals, whales, octopus, sites, the actual bottom of the ocean. Uncle Sol from Hawaii, always cites the Kumulipo, the Hawaiian creation story, that makes it very clear that the origin of life is that mud of the deep ocean. This is where life started.
Well, it's just, I mean,
scientists are just catching up.
And scientists would say the same.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, just, every scientific expedition that's been out there has come back with, like new species, new discoveries, and in the mud, it's just full of, microbes and bacteria and viruses and all kinds of interesting critters, and
The
even
library of life.
library of life, and even the nodules themselves seem to be like
Absolutely.
they're not a rock. It's a living crust on there that's fixing the
And it's growing,
metals.
it's actively growing.
Yeah, and
layers.
so it's not as if they're just going out to a hillside and chipping off some piece of ore. It's a living system
They may actually be creating oxygen.
Yeah, we've heard that too.
This is not proven yet, but it's looking very clear that there's something going on there. There's oxygen being created.
Well,
Again, potentially the laboratory or the place where life was created.
right, and there certainly is all the things that go on around deep sea vents, another area being targeted for mining. Those the black smokers and so forth, but those are creating all kinds of interesting chemistry around them, and why how can we just the chemosynthesis that goes on in the absence of light, right? Learn from these things.
So,
and that's very interesting when we are at places like that, when we see reports, scientific reports, and with also local knowledge, traditional knowledge, with the presence of, indigenous people. I think together it's very interesting to build this and to bring this to the world, to make the world understand why indigenous people who are really still tied to this environment, and people who are making the laws, they have to think about what we are doing to our ocean and what are the impacts of it. And for us, for me, actually being over there was an eye-opening of how can people think other than us, other than how we think in Pacific Island. This is our home. This is our place, and this is a sacred place that we always, our ancestors respected for millennia, and they gather all this knowledge there. And still today, with combination with science and this local knowledge, and bringing that spiritual also relationship with this world, I think all of us together, we can do something. And I think the presence at the ISA has brought the people to think twice about what they are doing and what their decision is going to, impact, how it's going to impact the ocean if they ever go there,
Yeah.
So for us, bringing the indigenous voice is also helping these people who are Oceanian people to go back to their culture, to go back to how their ancestors were dealing with the ocean, and to think twice about the decision that they are going to do. And this is because somewhere, somehow, they might have lost some of their values, or they might have been driven by industries. So the choice is, do our children deserve, an industrial waste of land, or do they deserve an ocean, a living ocean? This is a question. Are we going to let industries destroy our ocean, or are we going to act to preserve this as a living place for our next generation? So, you come back to that, you'll find out that we will have to work for a better future, and get this relationship that we have to.
Yeah.
So back in the 1970s, there was a proposal to put a mega port and a oil transfer place in Palau,
Ah,
right in the midst of those amazing islands, limestone places. And it came perilously close to happening. A superport
ugh,
with dredging would have to take place in order to allow these deep draft vessels. And there was promise of great wealth, but cooler heads finally prevailed. And they just said, no, that the value of the intact system was worth more than fat bank accounts that could not restore what was lost. No amount of money could restore those islands. No amount of money can restore even a single tuna fish, let alone the vast areas that are currently on the chopping block. That image that you showed of the islands with exclusive economic zones looks as though jurisdiction has been established over much of the Pacific, but the reality is that about half of the world is beyond national jurisdiction.
Yes.
High seas, which is where the deep sea mining areas in the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, one example that is beyond national jurisdiction, belongs to anybody. Everybody should have a voice, not just a handful of people.
the 80.
Fewer than that.
Fewer than that, yeah.
That, or the few countries, such as the few island countries, that see wealth, a good life, that they can, bank what we will enable them to buy what you don't get from nature. Well, everything ultimately
Comes from nature.
originates in nature. But in the short term, they could have a luxurious life at the expense of everybody, including all of those
Yet
in
to
the
come.
future.
Yeah, the future
And it
kids.
just is certainly illogical. It's also immoral.
Yes.
It's also never gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's also never gonna
How do
happen,
we-
yeah.
What is it going to take? What power do we have to resist the new argument that these minerals must be somehow turned into vital elements of missiles, of the weapons of war? And when that argument is brought forward, that we have to sacrifice in order to have defense systems.
Yeah.
It's
absurd.
incredible to think, and it's absurd to think that we are going to destroy the ocean to make, to serve military or, guns or anything,
To kill each other.
to kill each other. We are
Yeah.
killing the land and the ocean to kill each other. And it's absurd. I mean, this is a crazy world, and we have to go back to, what are we going to do? Are we really aiming to that? And yeah, it's hard to believe that human can create and humanity can create as a frame like this. So I do believe that all of us, like on the canoe, we carry the spirit of the people on a canoe, and to go and bring the people together to come back to reason. And your voice, Sylvia, has been a fantastic voice to all of us to really open our mind. And of course it brings us back to our culture, to our way of living, and see that we can bring to the world, we can change the set of mind of the world. If we can do that, we can succeed. And that's what we have to build together. So you have done a lot of work that really, how do you say, inspire us. And Nainoa has been doing this beautiful work in the ocean with, also what he's doing with the canoe to Malamaholua. And this continuous work, I think that bringing the indigenous people together from all around the Pacific, and somewhere we can meet that goal. And I do believe that the future is there. We have to do that.
The key may be what's right in front of us right now. If people understand what's at stake, what's at risk, and if they know what the problems are and how it affects them personally, they can figure out what they have the power to do. And one of the things that I am excited about is right there in Tetiaroa with the Brando, inviting people to explore the ocean, learn about the ocean, respect the traditional values, and to be able to take what is now known by the deep history, deep wisdom about the ocean and the insight gained over long periods of time, but just from the surface. How to be able to go into the ocean, go down, visit with the real octopuses in the deep sea, and to take people and bring it together, really see what is under the canoes, and to have the traditional methods meet with the new understanding that strengthens the rationale and the sense of urgency about we must not destroy the very systems that make our existence possible. Wealth can follow. There are many recipes for how you can generate wealth without destroying nature.
Yeah, there's
As-
so many nature positive solutions that are coming along and in ways to, not have to transport oil and other fossil fuels to these sensitive areas. There's solutions coming. We just have to drill
already-
down on those and not
Already being practiced
at the
at the Brando
Mhm.
and at other
Yeah.
places around the world. Think differently about how do you work within the system without destroying the system.
Right.
Yes.
Easy to
Yes.
thought.
Yeah.
The Brando is a good example of that,
Yeah.
Sharon, and definitely, Tetiaroa Society has been working, in collaboration with the community. I mean, that cultural core is very, very important because it brings the energy, the people together, to share that knowledge. But it brings also the spirit, to this project and how we can enhance our capacity of how we deal with our ocean or with our environment without destroying it. So having the Tetiaroa has been a great example by having this project that cohabit, like with science, island, protection, restoration of the island, but also education, community, fishermen that are dealing with the place, the tourism, the ecotourism that that Mr. Bailey is doing over here. And I think everything together, and maybe with the future with the Hono, I think all together it's going to help to understand this world and bring the people to understand and sharing that to the world. I think it's the best way also to convince people of how to deal with an ocean which is in good health. And
Yeah.
good health of the ocean means good health of the community, good health of the planet. That's what it means for us.
Yeah. And we are working on the submersibles to come there and live there and be part of the community. And I think it's just such a fundamental shift in, bringing technology to bear that really provides some of these nature positive solutions for the youth coming up, that they can train to become, submersible pilots and guides. And
So what are the subs are called Honu subs,
Honu.
meaning turtle?
yeah. Tell us about the turtle story.
Oh, the turtle is also a very, very important animal for atoll people, for Tuamotu, but also on Tetiaroa. The turtle is the animal that makes the connection between the ocean and the land. It always comes back. It has the force, the strength to come back to the place where it was born and to lay the eggs on the land and to go back, and that connection is very important. The turtle also is the animal of cohesion. It brings the people together to respect each other, to share. It's an animal of equity also. Everything is shared with everybody. And also the animal, the turtle was the marker for our time period, like when we say the Matari'i, when the Pleiades are rising, this is when the female turtle, they arrive, they lay their eggs, and then they go back, and then the male turtle are there. So it's a very symbolic place, but the most of it that we keep is that relationship between the deep, the ocean, and the land, and that the idea of being together, of sharing together, of this connection that we're working of learning as well. That's what the turtle means for us. So Hono means deep, but it's also the animal, the turtle. When we say Hohono, it's very, very deep. And Hono is also like a deep place where the turtle come from. And it's also the name of Hono,
Yeah.
Turtle, yeah.
We can't wait to get people there, visiting
Kids especially.
and kids especially, to really see what's at stake and to have the gift of time below the surface and to really see what's under the canoe.
Oh, wow,
I
that's
mean, this is a good trailer for an upcoming deep dive, I suppose, but we're talking about that Liz and company and Sylvia are building submersibles that we will be using here in French Polynesia to study the mesopelagic zone down to 1,200 meters. So a place in the ocean that there's been very little study done. And so here in French Polynesia, we'll begin that work next year. And
Yeah.
it won't just be about research, it'll also be about education. And so these submersibles that carry 3 people each will be put to use, and we can't wait.
I'm
So
looking.
again,
Yeah,
next
sorry.
time around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
looking for all our navigators to also not only navigate on the surface, but also to see what is in the deep, and they always look at the stars, at the waves, at the currents, but, going into the deep is going to deeper their relationship and their knowledge, about the deep ocean. And yeah, this will be great for our children, for our youth, and also I think it's a great homage to what Mr. Bailey has done for Tetiaroa, bringing children, bringing the youth, bringing the community, and keeping the culture very, very strong on this island. Without the culture, you can't go anywhere. The culture,
Yeah.
the ocean has shaped our culture. And this is a place where you can learn about a lot about Tetiaroa, but also understand our planet, how the planet functions.
I love it. I love that through through the technology, through some of the initiatives there on Tetiaroa, that it's really building capacity in the community and giving the kids that are coming up there now real reasons to stay and to be, a cohesive part of the future. And not in so many coastal and island nations, the kids just leave, and they're not there to really absorb all that cultural knowledge and their history, and they just disperse and it's lost. And so, so grateful to both of you for all of the effort that you're making there with the community and the broader community, the ocean community, on why the deep sea, why the high seas matter. It's critically important, and I hope there's things that, people that, some things that anybody can do, that any words of advice for what can the average person do to make a difference for the high seas.
Mm. The average person, what they can do for it starts in our community. Each people can start in their own family, and it starts at the base, in the core. Your culture teach you some ways of how to deal with our relationship. Keep that link, very strengthen that link, and not being absorbed by money, by profits, short-time profit, and really bring our voice together, get together, bring our canoe together, and means bring every canoe, every knowledge that we have, bring it together, bring our voice to be louder. And for that, we need to raise awareness in our community. And that has been ignored by this company. They ignore indigenous people, they ignore our voice, and they divided us. But going together, bringing us together, and building our community capacity of how we strengthen that link, keep on strengthening that link with nature, and for here with the ocean, is gonna help us for the future. So then, having scientists, having new technology that are not harming nature, we have building those new technology that are not harming, and build that help, teaching that help also enhance our capacity to face the future.
Absolutely. Well, we are right at the top of the hour. So just want to say thank you so much for joining us, Hinano and Frank. And thank you to our
Pleasure.
producers at the Ocean Elders, and mostly thanks to all of the people in the diving community that continue to show up and participate in these conversations. Water connects us all, and we're incredibly grateful. We will be
Yeah.
back. We'll be back on April the 29th. Until then, remain curious and remember,
To take care of the ocean as if your
Yeah.
life depends on it, because it
it
does.
does. It does. Thank you
Thank-
both.
Thank you.
Thank you,
See you.
Liz. Thank
Bye now.
you. Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you,
Mhm.
everyone.